Let's face it, knowledge is a dangerous thing, especially when someone is trying to trap you in a mental prison. It's the ultimate tool of manipulation and control. And that's why people like Credo Mutwa, who held the keys to rewrite history and, by extension, our present reality, were considered so dangerous. They were a threat to those who wanted to suppress and control us. The knowledge Mutwa shared is the kind usually reserved for secret initiates. But as he himself said, the world needs to know this. These forces, they operate in what I call the grey area of human existence, that part of our lives we re-taught to ignore, the side we don't want to acknowledge even exists. We're told that these entities, the Chitari, feed on the energy generated by our minds, especially when we're thinking at certain intense levels. In essence, these creatures are harvesting us. The core of this chilling revelation is this. A reptilian extraterrestrial race has been controlling planet Earth for thousands of years, and they are still in control today. They've strategically placed their own genetically compatible bloodlines into the highest positions of power across the globe. For centuries, we've been fed an official story, an official narrative about where we came from, about our religions, and about the great civilizations that shaped our world. But far away from the history books, deep in the spiritual heart of Africa, there are other accounts that were never written down. These are stories passed down in secret from one generation to the next, purely by word of mouth. These stories speak of beings who descended from the sky. They talk about entities that fundamentally altered human consciousness. And they tell of guardians of knowledge who, in silence, preserved truths that our modern world simply refuses to accept. One of the most important of these guardians was Credo Mutwa, a Zulu shaman who dared to break the silence. He was an elder who claimed to have seen, with his own eyes, the gods that rule this world from the shadows. This is his story, and what you're about to hear might just change the way you see reality forever. So, who was Credo Mutwa? Credo Vusamazulu Mutwa was born in 1921 in a small South African village. His full name carries a profound meaning, the one who awakens the people. But his story isn't one you can tell like that of an ordinary man. Credo Mutwa was not an academic, nor was he a scientist recognized by Western institutions. He was something far more powerful and, at the same time, far more feared. He was a Sangoma, an African shaman, a guardian of the most ancient secrets of the entire continent. In Africa, for thousands of years, knowledge wasn't stored in books. It was a living thing, passed down orally through elders, healers, and sages. It was sacred knowledge, fiercely protected and only shared with those who were deemed ready to receive it. From a very young age, Credo was initiated into this ancient lineage. It was his grandfather, who was also a powerful healer, who first instructed him in the deep mysteries of the body, the soul, and the universe. He learned about ancient rituals, powerful symbols, sacred plants, and the world of spirits. But he also learned about the gods who came from the stars long, long before today's major religions came to dominate the world. Years later, with a voice that was both firm and fearless, he made a momentous decision. He chose to break the sacred vow of silence and reveal to the world what he had learned. This brings us to the Chitauri, the sky gods, who, according to Mutwa, altered the human being. Among all the profound knowledge that Credo Mutwa received from the elders of his lineage, there was one story he could never forget. A story as strange as it was deeply disturbing, but it was also a story that was eerily consistent with what many other cultures around the world have whispered about in hushed voices for centuries. That story spoke of the Chitauri. These were reptilian entities who, in ancient times, descended from the sky in shining ships. Ships that were wrapped in fire and thunder. According to the tradition passed on to Mutwa, before the arrival of the Chitauri, humanity was completely different from what we know today. We were once beings who possessed incredible mental abilities. We could communicate telepathically. We had a deep connection with nature, and we lived in a state of harmony. Our spiritual awareness was at its peak, but the arrival of the Chitauri changed everything. These beings were not benevolent gods. They were colonizers. They saw humanity's potential and sought to control it for their own purposes. They genetically manipulated early humans, altering our DNA. This upgrade, as they might have called it, was actually a downgrade. They suppressed our psychic abilities, limited our consciousness, and severed our connection to the spiritual world. Why would they do this? To make us more docile, more controllable, and easier to harvest. They instilled in us emotions like fear, anger, and greed, powerful negative energies that they feed on. Mutwa described them as parasitic beings that drain our life force. He claimed they created different races and languages to divide us, to keep us fighting amongst ourselves, so we would never unite and realize our true power. The most shocking part of Mutwa's account is that the Chitauri never left. He insisted they are still here, ruling from the shadows. They control our governments, our financial systems, and our media. They are the puppet masters pulling the strings of world leaders, many of whom, according to Mutwa, share their reptilian bloodline. Think about it. The constant wars, the endless division, the relentless focus on materialism, and fear doesn't it feel like a system designed to keep us distracted and weak? Mutwa's stories provide a chilling explanation for the state of our world. He wasn't just telling folklore. He was giving a warning. Mutwa even described their physical appearance. He said they are tall, slender beings with reptilian features, scales, slit pupil eyes, and a cold, calculating intelligence. He claimed they can shapeshift, taking on human form to move among us undetected. This isn't just a fantasy. Ancient art and scriptures from cultures all over the world depict similar reptilian humanoid figures, from the Nagas of India to the Dragon Kings of China. The story is everywhere if you know where to look. Credo Mutwa paid a heavy price for breaking his vow of silence. He was ostracized, ridiculed, and faced numerous attempts on his life, but he believed the truth was too important to remain hidden. He believed that humanity's only hope for liberation was to wake up, to understand who our real masters are, and to reclaim the spiritual power that was stolen from us. His message is not one of despair, but one of empowerment. It's a call to look beyond the veil of reality that has been constructed for us. It is an invitation to question everything we've been taught and to reconnect with the deeper truth of who we are. What do you think? Is Credo Mutwa's story a wild fantasy, or is it the key to understanding the hidden forces that shape our world? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey into the hidden truths of our world. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the notification bell so you don't miss our next exploration into the unknown. Stay curious and question everything. Did you know that, according to some ancient African traditions, humanity wasn't always divided into men and women? Imagine a time long before recorded history when human beings were complete, self-sufficient entities. They were a perfect integration of body, mind, and energy, living in total harmony with the earth and the cosmos. In this primordial state, words didn't exist. Communication was direct, mind to mind. A pure exchange of images, sensations, and thoughts. There was no misunderstanding, no separation, only unity. Then everything changed. According to the late Zulu shaman Credo Mutwa, a race of beings known as the Chitauri arrived on our planet. These entities, he claimed, were not mythological figures, but real, physical beings. Their arrival marked a profound and tragic turning point for humanity. The Chitauri divided the original human being into two distinct sexes, male and female. With this division, they introduced concepts that had never existed before: need, desire, and dependence. They sowed the seeds of duality, creating a fundamental rift in the human experience. But their manipulations didn't stop there. The Chitauri gave humanity the gift of spoken language. Now, this might sound like a wonderful advancement, a tool for greater expression. However, Mutwa described it as one of the most effective tools of control ever devised. Why? Because by forcing humans to use words instead of communicating directly through thought, the innate telepathic connection was severed. Suddenly, misunderstandings became possible. Lies could be told. Confusion and conflict arose where once there was only clarity and harmony. The very fabric of human interaction was fundamentally altered, creating a world ripe for division. And what was the purpose of all this? According to these traditions, it was for labor. The Chitauri forced the newly divided and confused humans to work in mines, extracting precious minerals and metals from the earth. This detail is striking because it draws a powerful parallel to other ancient astronaut theories. Most famously, those proposed by Zecharia Sitchin regarding the Anu. Sitchin's work also suggests that an extraterrestrial race either created or genetically modified early humans to serve as a workforce, mining gold for their home planet. Could these be two different cultural accounts of the same cosmic event? This story of division also resonates with the well-known biblical account of the Tower of Babel. In that story, humanity, united by a single language, attempts to build a tower to reach the heavens. As a punishment for their hubris, God confuses their language, scattering them across the earth, unable to understand one another. But what if we re-examine that story through the lens of Mutwa's teachings? What if it wasn't a divine punishment, but a deliberate act of external manipulation? A strategic move by a non-human intelligence to ensure humanity remained divided and controllable, forever unable to unite and reclaim their original power. For Credo Mutwa, the Chitauri were not just ancient history. He insisted they were not myths or psychological archetypes, but tangible entities with advanced technology and a very clear, ongoing agenda to enslave human consciousness. They taught humanity the concepts of obedience and worship. They introduced the practice of kneeling before authority, of accepting hierarchies without question. They created religions, installed kings and queens, and gave us the symbols of power that we still recognize today. All of this, Mutwa argued, was a sophisticated system designed to sever the spiritual connection that each human being has with their true, powerful, and unified self. As a result of this ancient intervention, Mutwa warned that humanity now lives under a kind of spell. It's a mental enchantment, a veil of illusion that keeps us divided, confused, and fundamentally asleep. We are disconnected from our true nature and our immense inner power. We fight amongst ourselves over flags, beliefs, and borders, never realizing that these divisions were artificially imposed upon us. We have forgotten our shared origin and our collective potential. But Mutwa's accounts take an even darker turn. He recounted experiences, perhaps trance states or even abductions, where he witnessed how these entities feed on humanity. He described them feeding on the human brain. This might not be just literal, but energetic. He suggested that the Chitauri nourish themselves on the raw, powerful energy of human emotions, specifically negative emotions like fear, suffering, anxiety, and chaos. This creates a terrifying feedback loop. They create the conditions for suffering and then harvest the emotional fallout as sustenance. This concept isn't unique to Mutwa's tradition. We find echoes of it in other esoteric belief systems. The Gnostic texts, for example, speak of the Occam's inorganic beings who seek to keep human souls trapped in the dense material world, feeding off their spiritual energy. Modern esoteric researcher Robert Monroe coined the term losh to describe this very same emotional energy, which he believed is harvested from humans by non-physical entities as if we were a cosmic farm. Could all these different sources be describing the same horrifying reality? Perhaps the most unsettling part of Credo Mutwa's message is his insistence that the Chitauri never left. He was adamant that they continue to operate from unseen dimensions, influencing our world from behind the curtain. They are camouflaged, hidden behind the very power structures that govern our lives, our political systems, our global financial institutions, our religious organizations, and the media that shapes our perceptions. They operate through sophisticated mechanisms of emotional and mental control, constantly stirring the pot of human conflict to maintain their food supply and their dominance. They are the masters of the matrix, the architects of our perceived reality. In our next segment, we will dive deeper into this chilling aspect. We'll explore the specific ways Mutwa believed the Chitauri manipulate modern society. We'll look at the symbols, the systems, and the psychological tactics he claimed they use to keep humanity in a state of perpetual servitude. The story is far from over, and understanding their methods might just be the key to breaking the spell. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the hidden history of humanity. If you find this exploration compelling, please consider liking this video, subscribing to our channel, and hitting the notification bell so you don't miss the next part of this incredible story. We'll see you then. Have you ever felt like you're being pulled in a million different directions? Like the world is intentionally trying to confuse and divide you? Well, what if I told you that feeling isn't just in your head? It's a pattern, an old game played for generations, just with new names and different flags. The goal is always the same: divide, fragment, confront, and weaken. But here's the secret. Once you see the game, you can choose not to play. If their entire strategy is to pull us apart, then the most powerful, most revolutionary act we can commit is to do the exact opposite: to unify. And I'm not just talking about coming together with our friends and family. I'm talking about a deeper unity, an internal one. Because the real battlefield isn't out there, it's within us. They try to split our minds from our bodies, our energy from our intentions. They want us disconnected, not just from each other, but from ourselves. When we start to bring ourselves back together, when our body, mind, and spirit align, everything changes. We remember what it feels like to be whole, conscious, and truly free. You start to realize this was never about your job or your bank account. This has always been a battle for your soul. And that's where our real power is hidden. It's in that sacred inner space that no algorithm can touch and no empire can control. It's our direct line to something much, much bigger. So, how do we reclaim this power? It starts with simple, conscious choices. The system is designed to scatter our energy and keep us in a constant state of survival. So the real rebellion begins when we disconnect, just for a few moments each day, turn off the noise. Step away from the algorithms that aren't built to inform you, but to addict you, to fragment your attention and pull you away from your center. Let's go back to basics. Think about your diet. I mean a conscious diet. Not just what you eat, but what you consume with all your senses. The food we eat directly impacts how we think and feel. Eating clean, natural foods doesn't just nourish your body. It calms your mind and raises your vibration. But it goes beyond the plate. What are you reading? What music are you listening to? What shows are you watching? Where you place your attention is where your energy flows. Choose to surround yourself with energies that uplift you and empower thoughts that build you up. Because you are a creator, and whatever you nurture inside is what will blossom in your life. And then there's something so fundamental, we almost forget its power. Your breath. Just breathe. I mean, really breathe. Deeply, with intention. For thousands of years, yogis and meditators have used the breath not just to calm the mind, but to unlock vital life force energy, what they call prat. A few deep, conscious breaths can bring you instantly into the present moment. Silence the mental chatter and allow that powerful energy to flow freely through you again. This brings us to meditation. Think of it not as an escape, but as a homecoming. It's your time to sit in silence, to observe yourself without judgment, and to reconnect with the person you are beneath all the noise and conditioning. In that silence, a profound clarity emerges, a knowing that doesn't come from your thoughts, but from a direct connection to your inner spark. And don't forget your body. It's the temple where your consciousness lives. Walk, exercise, dance, stretch. When we let our bodies stagnate, our energy stagnates too. Conscious movement awakens your cells, centers your mind, and grounds you in the here and now. You've probably heard about all of this before. Will, breathe, meditate, move, but knowing is not the same as doing it. The real magic happens with consistency. It's the daily practice, day in and day out, that creates a real transformation. It's in living these principles that you start to feel their true, life-altering power. And finally, get out into nature. Go to a park, a forest, the beach. Breathe the fresh air. Feel the earth beneath your feet. Listen to the wind and the birds. There are no algorithms there, no masks, no agendas. There is only truth. And in that raw, simple truth, something deep inside you remembers who you really are. Nature deprograms us. It reorders our scrambled energy and reconnects us to the original, steady pulse of life. In these quiet moments of disconnection from the outside world and reconnection with your inner world, you can finally ask yourself the important questions. Where am I operating from? Is this action coming from my true self, my spirit? Or is it a programmed reaction born from fear, habit, or past trauma? This level of self-awareness isn't always easy, especially when we're caught in the whirlwind of daily life. But in the quiet spaces you create for yourself through meditation, breathing, or a simple walk in nature, becomes possible to find that thread again, the one that connects you to your highest self. And that is where true freedom begins. It's when you stop just reacting to the world and start consciously creating your world from a place of inner power, step by step, breath by breath, choice by choice, we take back what they tried to steal: our attention, our wholeness, and the sacred sovereign energy that has been ours from the very beginning. Thank you so much for sticking with me until the end. I truly hope this has been helpful and has given you something valuable to think about. If you enjoyed this, please give it a like and don't forget to subscribe for more content like this. See you in the next one.